a different meaning when you're working with software design. I'll mention it in a minute, okay? But it's important that you notice I'm using those, okay? Then we have a type modifier. Then we have actually a type. And then we have a or identifier, right? Now let me show you my notes. I don't know. So okay, let's go. So we have a storage class specifier, type modifier, type, and then your actual identifier, whatever name you want to use. Okay. And all this actually has to go into one single line, but I ran out of space. Okay. So you can see for ending the identifier, then you have quite a bit of stuff to do. Okay, in order for you to declare a variable, to define a variable. Sorry. Okay. And I was going to show you my notes, but those probably never mind. You cannot even see that. So let's look back at our examples here. We have x is equal to 10. I guess we were defining this as an integer, right? So let's look at over here. Okay, storage class specifier. First, we have to decide: do we want x equal the variable x to be? We know that we want it to be of type integer, right? But do we want it to be short or long? Do we want it to be static or automatic? Auto, okay. So we could as well set this, okay. Static long int x. That will be one possible variable definition. And it is possible I could do the following, okay? Static long int. Okay, once I do I declare all the attributes, x is equal to 10. I could actually initialize to the actual initial value. Okay, so if I do this will be kind of the same as MATLAB, right? I'm creating a variable x which is of type integer, but it's a long integer and it's a static. Okay. Or I could do something like auto, okay, and I could use some other identifier. I could say, for instance, let's make it kind of interesting, auto signed, okay, unsigned, meaning I'm only going to have positive, okay, values. Short, okay. So I'm only going to use 2 bytes to store x. Now I have an int x is equal to 10. So you see, it's 3 different ways to define x. Which one is correct? It all depends on why do you want to create this variable. Okay. But it took us all this statement to do exactly the same thing as you will do right here in MATLAB with x equal to 10. Okay, so as you can see, in C language you are basically in charge. Okay, in MATLAB is in charge of doing a lot of stuff. In C language you are in charge of creating variables the way you want them. Okay. Another example. And again, one important thing here, going back to actually why I'm using this this less than, greater than, is back because all this is actually optional. Okay, when you see these brackets, let's say, okay, this type of bracket implies that this is an optional modifier, okay, or an optional attribute to the identifier. You don't need to include it if you don't want to there. And we discussed where are the defaults, right? So if I just said, let me clean up a little bit here. Okay. So if I was just going to say int x equal to 10, what does this imply? Okay, I don't have anything about auto or static or long or short. Okay, so this implies that X is 32-bit. Okay, it's not short, long, it's normal. Is auto, mean automatic, it's not static. Okay, and is signed. Okay, so this is the default. Okay, the default behavior. Okay. Now, like this, we can play with others. Like for instance, let's say I had the earlier variable y is equal to 2.75. So in this case, we will have float y is equal to 2.75, and I have created the variable y in C that is going to store initially 2.75. Okay. But I could have done, could have used some of the other modifiers. Okay, and for float, let's mark here. For float, okay, we see that we can basically. Sorry. My camera. Okay, there we go. For float, we can see that we can. Let me see. We really only could use basically the volatile and the const modifiers, but we're not going to discuss those right now. Okay. And as far as the specifiers, okay, it could either be static, external, or auto as before. So I could also use something like static float y is equal to 2.75 and so forth. Now, if I was going to use extern float y, in this specific case, you cannot. So let me go back. Float is irregular real number. I could use a static float, okay, to say that this variable has to be created before execution starts. And and in these two cases, I'm initializing. Okay, I can initialize. But for extern float y, since it is since this is only a declaration, remember, this is these two are definitions, because I'm creating the value. Okay, I'm actually creating the value. I'm creating the storage for the value. This I'm only referring to is a declaration. Okay, extern float y. So that means I'm not creating I'm not creating any space in memory. I'm not allocating space in memory. So in this case, basically, we cannot initialize. Okay. So going back at this, again, in MATLAB, it was straightforward, right? This y equals 2.75. Here, we have to be more careful, and you have to know what you want to do. Okay, what you are doing in MATLAB is very flexible. In C, is not flexible. It's strongly typed. Okay, you have to be very specific on your variables. Okay. One more example. We could, for instance, do something like within the same definition, we could define a few variables. Okay. For instance, the following is a valid statement: static car A, B, C, or the